get going. All right, well, hello everyone and welcome to today's session, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Jessica Pierce-Lamette and I'm a member of the CASN National Office staff. Firstly, and most importantly, CASN respectfully acknowledges that its national office is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people. Before we begin, I'd like to go over a couple of housekeeping items. Today's session will begin with a presentation from our speakers, followed by some time for discussion and questions. The session will be recorded and will be posted on YouTube, and the link will be sent to all participants by the end of the week. And a reminder to please do not unmute yourself unless you are called on to ask a question or speak. I am pleased to now introduce today's moderator, Dr. Charlotte Ross, a faculty member at Douglas College and a member of the CASN Mental Health Interest Group. Charlotte?
Thank you, Jessica. Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining us for today's presentation, and a happy Nurses Week to everybody. My name is Charlotte Ross, and I'm a faculty member in the BSN program at Douglas College in Coquitlam, British Columbia. I would like to respectfully and gratefully recognize and acknowledge that both my home and Douglas College are situated on the Coquitlam First Nation, as well as the Coast Salish peoples on whose traditional and unceded territories we live, we learn, we play, and we do our work. I would like to invite Vanessa from McGill to make the Indigenous Land and People Acknowledgement for McGill University.
Thank you so much. So McGill University is situated on the traditional territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. We recognize and respect the Kanien'kehá:ka as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters on which we meet today to present you our presentation.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I'm very pleased to be moderating this webinar today as a member of the CASN Mental Health Interest Group. CASN's Nurse Educator Interest Groups are forums for educators to share ideas and collaborate with colleagues from across the country on topic areas that interest them. If you are interested in joining this group, or you can get in touch with either Sabiha or Jessica, who will put their contact information in the chat box, or you can visit the Canadian Nurse Educator Institute website. In today's webinar, two groups of nursing students and faculty members will be sharing their experiences of creating nurse peer mentorship programs in their respective educational institutions. It's our hope that webinar participants can use this experiential knowledge to implement similar programs at their institutions. A question and answer session will close the webinar. So I'd first like to introduce faculty and student representatives from Douglas College Peer Mentorship Program in the BSN program in Coquitlam, BC, who will discuss how their nursing peer mentorship program was started in 2010 and how it has supported students' well-being since its inception. It's now my pleasure to introduce Priya Rideout, Douglas College alumni, NPMP alumni, and faculty at Douglas College, Quinn Galilei Lang, a BSN graduate NPMP alumni from Douglas College, and Sienna Hamill, a third-year BSN student and PMP member at Douglas College.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to our friends from the East Coast. My name is Priya Rideout. I am a Douglas College alumna, having graduated from Douglas College's BSN program in 2011. Currently, I am a faculty member at Douglas College in the nursing program and have been working as a nursing educator for almost 3 years. I completed my master's degree in nursing in December from the University of Saskatchewan. But as a student at Douglas College in 2010, I started the peer mentorship program with my dear friend Sajay Yusofi after identifying a need for social connectedness and community within our program.
Looks like we lost Quinn there. Oh, thank you so much, Christina.
Before I begin my portion, I'll just give Sienna an opportunity to introduce herself, and hopefully by then Quinn will be back online.
Perfect. Thank you, Priya. So hi, everyone. My name is Sienna Hamill. I'm currently in my third year of the BSN program at Douglas College. I've been involved with PMP since my second semester of the program. I started attending meetings during my second semester when I started feeling a bit overwhelmed and needed a richer support network of like-minded individuals. As time went on and I was an active participant of PMP meetings, I was invited to become a coordinator. Since then, I've stepped up and learned how to run the program with the guidance of the more experienced coordinators. I'll now pass it over to Priya unless Quinn comes back, who will speak on how she started PMP as a student back in 2010.
Thank you, Sienna. So 12 years ago, as a nursing student, I did not have a grasp on mental health and well-being, especially my own. Today, mental health is a vital and primal need. During my time as a student, I lacked the resources to even consider the notion of mental health or the impact that forming connections would have on my well-being. Sajia and I looked at our nursing cohort and saw the numbers dwindle from the group that we began this journey with. We lost peers to academic shortcomings, family crises, financial restraints, reconsideration of life goals, among a myriad of other reasons. It was difficult to go through a day without thinking, am I going to make it? Am I the next one to go? Will I be successful? I recall walking through the halls of the health sciences building on my way to class, looking at each student's face as they trudged past me, wondering if they felt the same way, and had the same questions about their potential in their own program. When you're in the moment, in the midst of a difficult experience, it may be hard to see the promising light at the end of the tunnel, and just as difficult to imagine coming through it prosperous. So you see, my struggle with this metaphorical tunnel is that it is so dark in there, it's difficult to see that you're not alone in it. And that was a significant driver in my desire for the creation of connections. In my mind, the opposite of isolation was socialization. Sajia and I both had a similar perspective about the lack of connections, the lack of community culture, and the need for a sense of belonging and inclusion. And in author Marianne Williamson's words, people crave comfort, people crave connection, people crave community. And that's exactly what we set out to create. Yeah. We began looking into how we can create opportunities for connection building. As students, we were key stakeholders in the creation of this program, but we knew it would be difficult to bring our vision to fruition without faculty support. Faculty support was imperative to this project, as we knew promoting a positive student culture and sense of community would be felt by faculty as well, especially in their interactions with students and the settings of classroom morale. We approached Heather McMillan and Dan Nagel, who were fellow semester 7 faculty members at the time. Heather suggested using our idea for a mentorship program as a change initiative for a semester 7 project. Heather is in this picture on the left, and Sylvia is on the right. Heather became our faculty champion and ensured that Sajia and I continued to lead this passion project as a student initiative. She encouraged the use of literature to support our program vision. Heather also ensured we had the support we needed from additional stakeholders. She connected us with Sylvia Wilson, the Associate Dean of Health Sciences at the time. And Sylvia oversaw our project as a coordinator of our placement site and provided us with guidance and resources to lay the foundation of the PMP. As with any effective change project, research guided our design and implementation plan. So reviewing the literature, we discovered mentorship models that functioned as one-on-one mentors or dyads, or in group or team mentorship models, as is the case with circle mentorship. When we looked at the intent of the program we set out to create, we hoped to build a positive social culture through inter-semester connections. At the time, the BSN program at Douglas College was a 4-year, 8-semester design. And we wanted students to know each other from each semester across the program. Sajia and I decided the best model that would work for our vision was that of circle mentorship. And there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, burnout avoidance. It ensured students did not suffer from mentor fatigue or burnout, being the sole mentor for multiple people, as would be the case with a team mentorship model, in which one person is the mentor for multiple people. Secondly, the relationship building. This model that we chose connected students from semesters 1 to 8, leading to more connections and collaboration. And thirdly, multiple unique perspectives. A challenge of dyad mentorship is that if the values, viewpoints, personalities of the mentor and mentee do not align, there may be a loss of connection. Within a circle model of mentorship, there are multiple individuals, and with that, multiple personalities, experiences, viewpoints, and perspectives. This enriches the mentorship circle. And under these circumstances, students naturally tend to form connections and bonds with individuals they've met in the circle, and natural dyads may form. That takes us to the next step. So once we knew the model we would need based on our vision for the program, we created a set of guidelines, a clear contract of sorts, outlining the purpose of the program and the expectation of student conduct within the program. The PMP was designed as a positive platform for social connections and community building, and a place for students to gain and give support. It was not a platform for bullying, negative speech, academic dishonesty, or unconstructive criticism. Engaging in one of the previous would result in immediate termination from the PMP. Additionally, as an encouraging incentive, students were provided with a certificate of participation in the BSN Peer Mentorship Program upon graduation. Organizing and matching mentors. So once the guidelines were established, Sajia and I created application forms and requested information from students about their experiences, their dreams, fun facts, and how they preferred to be contacted by fellow mentors and mentees. Sajia and I then reviewed all the applications and organized students into groups based on similarities and preferences and semesters. In the end, we were able to organize groups with 1 to 2 students from each semester from semesters 1 to 8 of our program. Once this was established, with support from Sylvia and Heather, Sajia and I organized a meet and greet pizza lunch during the lunch break. This was the perfect opportunity for mentoring circles to meet one another. And I'd like to play you a short clip of Sylvia Wilson and Heather McMillan from that day.
Because there's been tremendous number of hours and conversations and readings around what does it mean to be a mentor. But in particular, they wanted to really create something that would be sustainable. That is, that it will continue once they graduate. Because ultimately, this is for you, by you. And so there's nothing more powerful than identifying what it is that you need to be successful and how you take it in your hands and make it something real for you.
And to quote Sylvia Wilson, a vision of sustainable student-led program for students by students is still active at Douglas College 12 years later. Sorry, Christina, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. As I was saying, to quote Sylvia Wilson, a vision of a sustainable student-led program for students and by students is still active at Douglas College 12 years later and will continue to be active for years to come. The connections that we build in nursing school shape our education, our profession, and ourselves. During our time at Douglas, Sajia and I built a network of colleagues and friends. We helped create a social culture of connection, collaboration, community, and mutual valuing. The peer mentorship program at Douglas College has definitely shaped me, and I will eternally be appreciative.
So we will now speak on how the NPMP currently runs and what we do. So the DC PMP works in a circular style of membership that is open to all BSN students semester-wide. The mentors are student volunteers that act as both mentors for peers and coordinators for the entire BSN program. We volunteer our time alongside our schoolwork so that we can create a safe and friendly atmosphere for all students. The first step the mentors take is to facilitate a meet and greet with new students at the start of each semester. This is where new BSN students can come and say hello and learn more about our club. Additionally, at the beginning of each semester, we, the mentors, will coordinate times that work well with different semester faculty members so that we can introduce ourselves and our club formally to new students and current students during a free moment in their class. It is usually during this time that new students will join our program-wide WhatsApp group. The WhatsApp group is a communication forum where the coordinators send out weekly meeting reminders and where students can ask fellow students questions and share relevant information such as application deadlines, job opportunities, and non-PMP extracurricular information like the DC Journal Club, where students read and discuss current literature. We've also created our very own PMP website, which we can link in the chat later, and Instagram, which holds information on the club, meetings, and common questions and reminders. Before I speak on our weekly meetings, I'll pass it over to Quinn to talk more about our structure and administrative responsibilities the coordinators hold.
Hello, everyone. I'm Quinn, and I've recently graduated from the Douglas College BSN program. I've been involved with PMP as a mentor and coordinator for 2 years since my second semester in the program, and I was an organizing member of PMP during the transition of in-person to online meetings and was able to increase the support for students struggling with isolation during the pandemic. I was also one of several student presenters from the DC PMP at the previous Mental Health Interest Group webinar in May of 2021. So a few things we wanted to mention about the internal structure of our PMP are the faculty support we receive, how we receive our funding, and how we encourage continuity of the program by mentoring amongst the mentors themselves. So since the program is student initiated and student run, we are fortunate to have our learning community coordinator, Tanya Roy, act as a faculty liaison for PMP when we need assistance with a student who may be asking questions that fall outside our area of expertise, like personal or academic issues. We refer to our faculty liaison for any questions we are not comfortable or qualified to answer, and she informs us of any opportunities for students presented by faculty, such as hosting a guest speaker or participating in research projects put on by faculty members. Other faculty assist us by speaking positively of PMP in their classes and allowing us coordinators to come into their classroom and advertise for upcoming events. Our funding comes from our student union. We are ratified members of our student clubs committee. We need to be registered as a club under the student union to be able to receive some financial support. The Douglas College student body pays for this in their union dues. We use this funding to pay for our website, purchase thank you gifts for our speakers, and to treat our mentors and mentees to catered events. For the final bit about the internal structure of our current program, we wanted to mention that because we are student run, all of the organizational work is done by nursing students. Whether it's corresponding via email with faculty and guest speakers, to posting on Instagram and updating the website, to taking part in our big multi-semester simulation and answering one-on-one questions. PMP stays afloat because of dedicated, hardworking students that choose to give up some of their free time to participate in PMP and help their fellow students going through nursing school. Students can become mentors by joining in on dialogue in group chats or engaging with other students during in-person meetings. Because of the circular format of mentorship, there's no official sign-up process to switch from being a mentee to a mentor. Junior students can express their interest in being more active in the program when there's an opportunity, can take over an administrative role and become involved in the organization of the program itself. Near the end of each semester, if there's an administrative position becoming available, for example, when a senior mentor is set to graduate, they can hand down the role to a junior student that is looking for more organizational responsibility. Our roles are handed down from student to student, and each senior mentor is responsible for introducing the junior mentor to the role that they are taking over. And there's the internal mentorship that I mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Quinn. So moving.
Sorry, Sienna, you somehow maybe double clicked on your mute.
There we go. Thank you, Quinn. So moving on to our weekly scheduled meetings and or the social events. So every week, 1 or 2 coordinators plan to run a 1-hour meeting over the lunch hour. These meetings can be structured, such as having a pharmacology tip session, counseling session where we bring in the DC counselors, employed student nursing and elective information sessions, and casual social sessions where students can eat and connect with students from all semesters. PMP has also invited guest speakers to present during our weekly meetings, and we also host a popular semester-wide simulation each term.
So like Sienna mentioned, one of the large scale events that we host each semester is a multi-semester simulation, high fidelity nursing simulation. This sim is organized in a dyad mentor-mentee relationship where the mentor, a senior student, assumes a role in the simulation and is paired with the junior student. They act as a pair in this role, and depending on the experience of the mentee, they can perform skills and assessments they are comfortable with. This is an excellent opportunity for the mentors to voice their rationales and thought processes to their partner directly and for the benefit of the students observing in the other room. There are typically 4 roles available inside the sim room, and this gives several students an opportunity to participate in the sim and be paired with a senior student. And we have heard from participating junior students that it made them feel less nervous going into their other sims and that they learned a lot from the senior students. The simulation itself is paired with peer-led pre-briefing and debriefing using the plus delta model for a structured debrief. students of all semesters, participants and observers alike, can reflect on what went well and what could be done differently next time. The sim is facilitated by faculty to help develop the scenario, prepare the documents, and the sequence of events of the simulation. The sim is also facilitated by the health sciences laboratory and simulation technicians. I was able to be a mentor in 2 consecutive simulations, participating as a mentor for junior students in my final year of the BSN program. I was paired with junior students who volunteered to participate, and knowing the experience level of those students, I was able to delegate tasks that were appropriate for the scope of that student. These students were able to experience what it was like being part of a simulation, and some of them for the first time, as well as working alongside senior members of the program, which was 5 and 6 in my case. In discussing the impact that PMP had on us, we asked a few of our PMP alumni to share how being a part of mentorship program affected them. These 2 graduates shared that PMP helped build their leadership skills, confidence in speaking in front of crowds, and building peer support systems. Next one, thank you, Christina. And this next quote is from a current faculty member and PMP alumni. She stated that in her experience, the students who participated in the PMP are the nurses who have gone on to do amazing things in the world of healthcare, such as working for the UN across the globe with refugees, or who have active roles in policy creation in the Ministry of Health, and that she always enjoys attending a conference and seeing a fellow Douglas PMP alumni, as it doesn't surprise her how active these graduates are in change and advancing healthcare.
All right, so we will now move on to personal experiences that 2 junior PMP coordinators have provided us since they moved from being a mentee to mentor. Both of these students expressed how their communication regarding their mental health has improved with attending PMP weekly meetings. They feel heard, they feel supported, and they feel that they are better prepared and organized with their studies and overall well-being. So now that we've heard experiences from faculty, alumni, and other members of the BSN program, we will briefly share how PMP has impacted us personally.
So being an organizing member of PMP gave me the tools I needed to discover my love of teaching. It was through PMP that I began to build my confidence in speaking in front of crowds and began explaining topics to students who attended our MedMath workshops. Being a mentor also built my confidence and pushed me to apply for the nursing peer tutor position and take part in our skills booster sessions. I was also able to create relationships with the incredible Douglas College faculty that encouraged me to consider the education path after a few years of bedside. I'm extremely thankful for my time in PMP. As much hard work as it was an invaluable experience, and I could not be more grateful for my fellow mentors and mentees that weren't able to make it to today's webinar, because they helped create a peer support network that was essential to my success in the nursing program.
Thanks, Quinn. So PMP has enhanced my student nursing career in that I found a support network that has positively benefited my mental health. I found my first semester to be tough since it was all online and I had limited in-person contact with members of the program. My second semester, however, was back to in-person learning, and this shocked me more than I had thought or anticipated. I felt the beginning of burnout and I knew I needed to find better support, and soon. One of the first sessions I attended was led by one of the DC counselors. These sessions allowed me to find ways to decompress and moreover encouraged me to engage in self-care, whether that be taking moments out of my day to partake in a mindfulness minute, go on walks, and or just grab a coffee to re-energize. Aside from mental health well-being benefits, my leadership skills have strengthened since being involved with PMP. I've been able to be a part of a strong team and take on responsibilities that include communication, mentoring, leading meetings, and learning administrative duties. My confidence has improved, which has led me to be more comfortable in public speaking and has allowed me to feel more relaxed in job interviews. And finally, because of PMP, I'm here with you all today. And I thank you as we now pass it over to McGill.
Thank you so much. I'm now very pleased to introduce faculty and student representatives from the Ingram School of Nursing at McGill University in Montreal, who will describe how their program generates a sense of belonging and connection amongst the undergraduate and graduate student body. It's now my pleasure to introduce Professor Leah Sansone, Associate Professor and Director of the BSN program and Nursing Peer Mentorship Program Director, Vanessa D'Aquila, McGill BSN and MSN graduate, and Nursing Peer Mentorship Program Organizing Committee member. And Christina Dada, McGill MSN graduate, Nursing Mentorship Program Organizing Committee member. I'll hand it over.
So good afternoon or good morning or good evening to everyone. On behalf of the McGill team, I would like to thank the Kazan Mental Health Interest Group for inviting us to share with you, along with Douglas College, our nursing peer mentorship programs. So just as we begin our presentation, along with my fellow presenters, Christina and Vanessa, we will review the program timeline from its pilot project in the academic year of 2013-2014 to our current program. We'll explain to you how the program works, describe our internal structure, and lastly, present some student experiences in the same format that the Douglas College has just recently done. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of a timeline or a story, like how did this all begin at McGill University? So in 2013, it all really started with one student. As a faculty, I was teaching a course and one student came up to me and asked me a basic question. I was also their advisor for that year. So basically came up to me and talked about her concerns about not being certain what to do. So she lived out in BC. She was a student at McGill, and she didn't know whether she wanted to complete her studies at McGill and then work in Quebec or return back to BC. And so I said, well, why don't you reach out to McGill alumni? I'm sure that they connect you with one of our graduates and you can have that experience. Weeks later, I followed up with her in class and she said that nothing really had happened. They weren't able to provide her with any potential graduate and so on and so forth. So I basically said, well, why don't we meet and see what we could do as a school? And so when I went off to the first meeting, I got there and there were 6 other students waiting there to have this meeting. So quickly we started to have real discussions. We met on a weekly basis. So this was in 2013. And this is when in our weekly discussions, we were able to identify student needs. And in 2014, we basically validated these needs with the rest of the students in the school, primarily with the BSCN students. And we also created what we call now Nursing Peer Mentorship Program. The students kept meeting once a week with me. We sent out a validation survey. We branded our Nursing Peer Mentorship Program. The students came up with the logo that you see in our background. And I applied for some seed funding from McGill University, which was a measly $1,500, but was more than enough to get lots of pizza for whenever we had some occasions. 2015, our program was funded by Health Canada through what we call the retention fund. So the retention fund was basically around the element of how do we promote and ensure that our students are able to communicate in French to ensure safe patient care. So it was through that funding that we basically received for over 6 years. That it all started back in 2015. We published our first article. And I forgot to mention, but in 2014, we had 42 students and 84 dyads. No, 42 dyads and 84 students, the opposite. And in 2015, it had gone up to 86 dyads, so it had doubled, and 172 students were involved. In 2016, the program continued to grow. We had participation now from other courses of study. We have a Bachelor's of Nursing integrated. We had direct entry students from our master's degree join us. And so at this point, we went up to 240 students were part of the program. And we started what we call our phase 2. It's called the Nightingale Fellowship Program. And that was meant for a specific mentorship program for graduating students. But that's not the purpose of this presentation, so we won't go there. In 2017, we started to become a little bit of a benchmark for different schools within McGill University. They wanted to know more about our program, and so we reached out to many of the schools, or they reached out to us. We had many schools internationally reach out to us to find out what we were doing. So 2017 was kind of an important year for us in the regards of sharing what we had learned from our program to others. And in 2020, we all know what happened in the famous 2020. We got hit by the COVID, and so we quickly adapted to a virtual NPMP, which my colleagues will be talking to you in a little bit. And our plans for the upcoming academic year is hopefully to be able to return to the in-person activities. So as I mentioned, a nursing peer mentorship program, sources of funding. For 6 years since 2015, we were funded by our research fund of Health Canada. And in the last academic year, the Ingram School of Nursing, and our director of the school has funded the program. As for the director and student organizing committee, so yes, I am the director. I was appointed as director in 2015, but this is a program for students by students. So I am there, and Vanessa, I believe, will talk about my role specifically. But I work in conjunction and very closely with students in what we call the student organizing committee. We try to have a representative from each program of study that is present within our school. And within that, we have a mentor-mentee dyads. So we pair students with a mentor using a survey, very similar to what Priya discussed before, similarities, where they're at in their studies, what are their interests. So similar concepts, similar data collection. We organize the different social events based on what the students' interests are for the year, as well as different educational workshops and supports.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Leah, and all the other presenters. Regarding our internal structure, we have our director, Leah, who has really been serving as a form of sustainability, as you can see throughout the years, as a resource person for those who are inquiring about the program, and also facilitates the program evolution. So if there's an event that was really popular last semester, let's say, we know that we could potentially repeat it and strengthen it, and also looking at opportunities for growth within the program as well. Within our student organizing committee, we have various roles, which we've attempted to formalize throughout the years, but really being a part of the organizing committee is also a fun and informal way to get involved. So as Leah mentioned, there are undergraduate and graduate representatives, and we have a VP Communications internal, so to look at our various initiatives that we're planning and taking our minutes for our meetings, and our VP Communications external to make sure we're active on our NPMP Facebook group, where we have our mentors, our mentees, all a part of that group. Code Think Leaders was a unique opportunity for some nursing students who have already taken certain courses that sometimes nursing students are potentially struggling with, our pharmacology, our pathology courses, and it's an opportunity for them to share notes who also passes through our teaching assistants and the professors, and also to organize study groups, which were virtual during the pandemic. For the dyad pairing, the timeline, it used to be in person where we would meet in a room and we'd have all the profiles of everyone. And now it's gone to a survey platform, which is another way that we've been keeping organized. And in terms of participation, we have the BSN, the Bachelor Nursing Integrated cohort that are already nurses from their DEC in Montreal coming into their bachelor's at McGill, the MSCA cohorts, the nurse practitioner ones, and the PhD and alumni are also invited to be a dyad for our last year students. And there's automatic enrollment as of 2020 for our nurse practitioner students to be paired in the various streams that they are studying in. So next slide, please. For our mentee and mentor dyads, we have pictures that you can see. This is one of the initiatives that we organized during the pandemic and before the pandemic as well, just to have students take screenshots that they're meeting with their mentee, mentor, dyad. It's a fun way that they could have their picture submitted and then enter into a raffle to win a gift card, let's say for example, for coffee that they could both go for in a social setting. You can go to the next slide. We've had Snapchat filters. We've had multiple, winter wonderland themed events where we could do that as well. So for other examples, we'll show you on the next slide some. So the first one is the Code Think for the pathophysiology review. We have in the middle here our clinical survival workshop, whereby a senior or senior nursing students are meeting with junior students to see how their clinical rotations are going, to share experiences and strengths that they've encountered over the years. Improv yourself or improve yourself workshop was when we were doing improv with students in the program to try and encourage them to show their camera. And we had like a spinning wheel with different terms, and it was improv for a minute. And we had a lot of fun with that as well as a way to become more comfortable in communication. Our NPMP appreciation event, similar to the Douglas, we have our meet and greet at the beginning, and our appreciation event is at the end. And we've combined with a pet therapy themed, which I'm going to show you. We're going to show you a picture of a screenshot where we bring our furry and non-furry animal pets to the party, if you will, virtually. We have our NPMP pumpkin carving contest around October, and that was an in-person event following restriction and guidelines. And lastly, our French language workshop, which started off within our NPMP, and we're very grateful that we've partnered in an interdisciplinary fashion with the Clinical French Club with medical students at McGill. And so we have various levels of proficiency in French, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And we practice case scenarios in fun and informal settings as well with our medical colleagues. And it's usually based on different themes of the year, of the semester. So next slide, please. This is another example. If anyone's been to Montreal, or if you haven't, we would highly recommend our Old Port. So this was an initiative where our U0 bachelor students who are taking primarily science courses, so not a lot of nursing courses yet, and they wanted that nursing feel. So it was an initiative whereby there was a meeting and greet for U0 and U1 students in our beautiful Old Port. Our pet therapy example in the bottom left-hand corner, right next to our pumpkin carving. And in the top right-hand corner, you also see a paint night virtually that was organized as well. And we hope to bring that back in person because that is a lot of fun. Next slide, please. So just in terms of supporting resilience, I will go quickly over this because in essence of time, but we welcome any questions regarding this new publishing that we got in the Canadian Journal Association on their website. And it was really just bringing themes together that we witnessed within our student groups, that there was this concept of feeling support and resilience by having participated in the peer mentorship program. So on our last slide, we have a list of our references and different publications as well. So I invite you to have a look at there. Next slide. Go ahead, Christine.
So for our last little section on student experiences, we decided to include some quotes from past and present students, and then we'll get into a short survey that we sent out this past April. So the student who shared some feedback here was a previous NPMP participant who actually contributed to some of the themes that are presented in the resilience paper that Vanessa has just spoken about. So this student has shared that NPMP has allowed me to feel less isolated during my studies, because as much as you have school friends, they will not always be the ones who you are comfortable to go to or who understand your situation. So what this student really highlights is that sense of community that NPMP strives to create within the McGill School of Nursing in hopes to combat those feelings of isolation and to really help create a sense of belonging by connecting students who are sharing similar experiences. Here we have a quote from our U3 BSCN organizing committee member, Paige, who has highlighted some of the similar themes like community, connectedness, and supporting one another. So as you can see here, she writes that being a member of NPMP and the organizing committee has been such an important part of my experience as a McGill nursing student. I was welcomed with open arms and immediately connected to a group of students from different stages of education, all with the intent of supporting one another. It introduced me to a wonderful community and allowed me to develop my outreach and leadership abilities within nursing. So another thing that Paige is also highlighting here are the transferable skills that participants in NPMP are able to develop as mentees, mentors, and potentially organizing committee members, which will help not just as a nursing student, but in your future career as a nurse. So with regards to our student experiences survey, at the beginning of April 2022, we created a short form to gather survey feedback from our current NPMP participants. The goal of this survey was really to get an idea of how NPMP has impacted or supported students' mental health, especially during the pandemic within this past academic year. We also had a secondary goal of collecting feedback for our continuous quality improvement and future activities. So as you can see here, we do have 15 responses, which is quite small compared to the number of participants we have in NPMP overall. However, because we were looking for qualitative feedback and really gathering personal experiences, we do recognize that these 15 students really do have valuable information to help guide our future plans. Our survey was shared on social media through our NPMP Facebook group, and it was also shared on our undergraduate and graduate student association pages with the goal of reaching as many students as possible. As you can see here on the left, most students shared that they had a positive experience with NPMP this past year. In terms of how NPMP has supported their mental health during the pandemic, you can see that the responses are overall positive, but a little bit more varied. And in the follow-up comments for this question, students shared that it was often a little bit more difficult with the virtual reality that we were facing to connect in certain activities. When we asked students to share which part of NPMP they found most helpful, it was interesting to see the kind of split between the mentor-mentee dyads and social events. Students shared that the dyads offered a little bit more of a unique experience by connecting individuals, and it offered that direct connection that allowed students to seek out a kind of constant resource person as necessary. In terms of social events, students shared that they appreciated the kind of laid back informal setting that helped them connect outside of the classroom and without necessarily thinking about nursing or theory or anything like that. Finally, we asked students to share which activities they participated in this past academic year. And as Vanessa shared, the interprofessional French language workshops and clinical survival workshops are still quite popular, and those are ones that have been going on for a few years now. Students also really enjoyed the pet therapy and our annual meet and greet. So these are activities that we hope to continue in the future. As I've kind of hinted at before, we did experience some challenges with the pandemic affecting attendance and struggling with Zoom fatigue because of our in-person limitations. But on the other hand, students did share how much they appreciated the flexibility of their individual dyads. They shared that they enjoyed the ability to, communicate one-on-one, whether that was regular phone calls or just checking in around exam time as needed. Students really did appreciate the flexibility to really make the program what they needed. So overall, I'll just close off by saying that while we have seen some of our strengths by the activities that students enjoy, we also were able to identify some areas that we hope to continue to improve on, such as ways we can reach out to students, perhaps beyond social media, or improving our social media presence, and really striving to continue the support and sustainability of NPMP at McGill. So on behalf of both presenting groups today, we want to thank you, and I guess we can pass on to Charlotte for questions.
Thank you so much. So at this time, I'm going to invite further questions for the speakers from the audience. Please, if you do have a question, use the raise hand Zoom feature, and you'll find it at the bottom under reactions. And Jessica will call on people in the order that hands have been raised. And if you have a question to put in the comments, I'll read those out and I'll help Jessica out with any hands that have been missed.
I'll just add that in French, si vous avez des questions,
oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Si vous avez des questions, soyez vraiment pas gênés. On peut aussi répondre en français aussi, if ever there's questions.
While we're waiting for questions to go in the chat box, I'll throw out a question. And I'll throw it open to anyone who wants to respond. How do you feel that faculty can support the formation of a peer mentorship program?
I'll give my 2 cents on this. So clearly, I think the fact that I have been asked to be the director of the NPMP, I think that faculty is crucial in order for these type of programs to continue. I mean, in regards to other schools at McGill who consulted with me, the ones that have continued or that lasted a little bit more than just 1 year are those that appointed someone to be able to be that constant, because we all know how busy we can be, for sure. And so I have to tell you that it takes somebody who's very passionate about students, passionate and willing to be there. And so I would like to say that it is crucial.
And I think just going off of what Leah said as well, Leah's students approached her because they felt most comfortable approaching her. And that was the same situation with Sajia and I. We approached a faculty member about our interest in creating that, creating the peer mentorship program. So for any faculty who are approached by students or for students even approaching faculty, I think it's important that as faculty, we support and we nurture those students because they felt a connection with us as faculty to approach us about creating a mentorship program and feel that we'd be vital in helping them achieve their goals. So nurturing that interest, helping them explore resources that they may not know about within the program, or even directing them to a program if one exists and perhaps being a new student may not even recognize. But nurturing students, fostering that interest, guiding, using literature to guide the creation of such a program at your individual institutions is really important. But keeping in mind that you were approached as a faculty member because the student felt a connection with you. And so you will be a driving force in helping them bring that type of a program to fruition.
Thank you. I have a question in the chat box. I'm going to read out.
Sorry, Charlotte. I think Vanessa wanted to add to that. And I apologize for my dog going crazy. I think Vanessa wanted to add to that answer.
Right, I can add to it, and I think it could also link in with Holly Richardson's question. So essentially, I'm not going to repeat Leah and Priya. That's exactly how I feel as a student. How fundamental it is to have a program or a director in the faculty. Regarding students who are busy, overwhelmed, some of us, myself included, were working as well part-time during the pandemic, and I think a great opportunity to start would be to look at the student councils or the student associations. So I've been the president of the Nursing Graduate Student Association at McGill. And within our student council, we have very eager, like-minded individuals who want to get involved. And so they could potentially be a great starting point to have the discussion. And moving forward, something that we've done as well as on our Nursing Undergraduate Society with our bachelor students is have this nursing peer mentorship program role integrated into our constitutions. So we have sustainability for the next role. Let's say that it's understood that there'll be, when the person graduates, that there'll be someone else taking on that role that they sign up for when they are a part of their council. So just as an example of something we could provide to our students.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything to add to that answer? Okay, so Jessica, do you want me just to go ahead with the hands that are raised?
I think Holly's question in the chat box was the first, but barring that, then Jeannie Hughes was next with her hand up.
I think that was answered in Vanessa's answer.
Oh, okay.
And Holly, if you feel that it wasn't, could you pop something in the chat box wanting more elaboration? Okay, so Jeannie, I think we're on to you.
Okay, I really appreciate the presentation. It was really good, and I think there's so much that the students can learn. Can you speak a little bit more about grad students? Because one of the issues that's going on in our program is a lot of the grad students are really needing some and wanting some peer mentorship, and so that's something at Dalhousie University we're looking at. And just can you just explain at McGill, are the grad students helping out with the undergrad student program, or are the grad students having their own peer mentorship program as well?
So, so I'll answer that question on behalf of one Dalhousie Nursing Graduate students had reached out to me a while back. And so we had connected and then the connection stopped. But one of the challenges with graduate students is the reality of everybody doing their own, is in school for a different issue. Unlike undergraduate, we all have to graduate, everybody following a particular educational program. So one of the challenges with the graduate students is exactly that. So you're asking if at McGill our graduate students mentor undergraduate. If they were undergraduate students, so and they know our curriculum, yes, they're more than welcome to do so. And they do continue to be mentors, not just when they go to graduate studies, but even once they work. So they continue to be mentors and volunteer to be mentors for many years as clinicians. Within our school in the last 2 years, our nurse practitioner programs, our directors have decided to make the program mandatory so that everyone is paired with an incoming nurse practitioner. It's a little bit easier with the nurse practitioner program because they have a they have a specialization. So it makes it easier for us to pair someone who's mental health with an incoming nurse practitioner in mental health versus, any other specialization. So it has worked. I believe one of my colleagues is here from the nurse practitioner program. It seems that the students have really enjoyed it. We will be getting more information from them in the near future. But it seems that it's been a wonderful experience for the nurse practitioner and students. I don't know if that answered all of your question.
Yeah, no, that's helpful because I really think that, and I know that at Dow, we're trying to work together for the graduate students. And I really like the undergrad student one as well, but I'm just thinking it's really important that we develop a graduate ones.
The support is very much needed for all of our students. The incoming students, similar to all our colleges and universities, we get students as young as 17 at McGill. And they're not just only transitioning to university. For many of them, it's the first time they've moved out of home, living on their own. Life is exciting. Downtown Montreal is super exciting. Like there's a lot of those elements of life explorations, but they're not just transitioning to university. They're transitioning to a professional program that asks them, as we all know, clinical labs, extra hours. So that balancing of everything is extremely important and support for undergraduate students. For graduate students, well, they're at a different level in their lives, in their careers. And so they have many factors that will cause extra stress. So absolutely, it's very much needed, if not even a little bit more needed. But I'm a little bit biased with nurse peer mentorship programs. So.
Yeah.
Vanessa, did you want to add to that?
Just really briefly, I would suggest, if it would work within the current program, adding from the undergraduate program, extending the invite to graduate students. Just because as a graduate student, I also find it really, I can speak to my own experiences, but revitalizing too, to be able to have initiatives with undergraduate students, who some of them are looking at grad school one day. And it's an opportunity to also share your own clinical experiences with them. And we network, and that has also gotten even more mentees under my belt because we've met and we really clicked. So that could be an opportunity as well moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tess, I think you're the next question.
All right, thank you. So first of all, just congratulations and gratitude for all of the work that all of you are doing. I think it's absolutely a critical initiative, and it's something that I'm definitely behind supporting as much as I possibly can at Douglas College. My question for you is that by the very nature of your interactions, I'm sure that there's a lot of discussion around mental health that comes up and just well-being and resilience and those types of things. So just the question to you is, and I noticed in the survey that I guess during the pandemic, some students were feeling that they weren't supported. So just in terms of equipping the group, are you finding that that's a common theme that you entered down? And what are your strategies or mechanisms that you have in place in order to be able to deal with those issues when they come forward?
if I just ask, are you inquiring just specifically around the pandemic or just in general?
Just in general, yeah.
I don't know, Priya, did you want to comment? I don't want to be the only one speaking all the time.
I can hop on. I think McGill had that lovely survey of being able to show what their students were thinking, but being part of PMP and being a very active member, attending all the meetings for the last year, I was part of the BSN program. I'm graduated now, but I think definitely yes, it's a common theme that people are feeling overwhelmed. Holy moly, what is going on? You know, using a censored version of that statement, but I definitely agree. I think our findings, if we were to do a similar survey, would be quite similar to McGill's, and meaning that there would be a lot of people feeling overwhelmed, feeling sort of burnt out, especially the people in Sienna's semesters who started online and then are going back to in person. They kind of get the whole wave of the full program after being online. So I'm sure Sienna can speak to that as well. But I would agree with McGill's findings that we're seeing the same thing. And the way that we sort of address that is we try to have our Douglas College counselors come in every month or so to do sort of mindfulness sessions and giving us tools on how to deal with overwhelming feelings and the difficulty of the program and all of that. And just being there to support students. We're always on the chat. We try and be really quick to reply to group messages. And if students reach out personally, we try to make ourselves available to be a one-on-one source of support. Looks like Vanessa wants to share something as well.
No, that's perfect. And thank you for that question. I think it comes down to looking at the needs assessment of the group. And in addition to our nursing peer mentorship program, we have also outreach to various resources where in my head, we're thinking of the wellness office at McGill. It's within our Faculty of Med and Health Sciences. So having, either someone who's trained within, mindfulness teaching or the clinical survival workshop is something we do separate, but if it's regarding those specific topics regarding wellness, we have professionals as guest speakers, if you will, come in, and making as much as possible these, events attirant, we say, like attractive. We have incentives to participate as well, which doesn't hurt if you have incentives, kind of like when you have pizza at an event, it's a different way to get people to come in, and really creating that safe space so that people would want to continue to join. That's what I would say.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. There's a question in the chat box back there. It's a question is this program part of your workload?
That's the big magical question. No, it's something that I do. So while we were being funded from the Health Canada, it was I was receiving some stipend, but it was on my own time. It was not part of my workload because I was receiving a fund. Now that the school is funding it, I'm not receiving a stipend, and it's not part of my workload. But it's and this is where it becomes an issue about the sustainability of it and faculty carrying through. And I am involved in this and will continue to be involved in it because I believe in it. But it is something definitely that all the research that's coming out about the benefits of a nurse peer mentorship program to all of our students. I think there needs to be a place that it needs to be recognized. I am recognized by value of my colleagues and my director, but not in workload and not in stipend.
I don't think, is Tanya here? I know she could speak to the Douglas College. I think, but don't quote me, I think it is part of the role of the learning community coordinator in our program. Is that right, Tess?
Yes.
And we are just sneaking up to 1 minute left. So I would just like to close off by extending some thanks and acknowledgements. I would first of all like to extend my sincere appreciation to Jessica and Sabiha for all their hard work in the administrative and technical support that they've provided us to at all stages in this endeavor. So big thanks to you guys. Thank you again to our speakers for the wonderful presentation and for such an important and foundational contribution to new nurses and to the nursing profession. I know that this will be a valuable resource for others who wish to develop PMPs at their nursing schools. And just, I'd like to acknowledge by name, Priya Rideout, Quinn Galilei Lang, Sienna Hamill, and from McGill, Professor Leah Sanzoni, Vanessa D'Aquila, Christina Dada, and a very, very big thank you to all of you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. So that concludes our meeting today. Oh, sorry, does somebody else want to?
I just wanted to say, you had mentioned last time when we were prepping that we would put our email addresses. I'm not sure if you still want
Yes, please. And I think if you could put the reference for that Stemming the Tide article would be nice. If you could put your emails up if anyone wants to contact any of you, because then that'll show in the recording, I believe.
Thanks very much. So if anybody would like to get a copy of the slides, you can contact any of the presenters, or for more information, again, you can contact the presenters with their email addresses in the chat. So, and as Vanessa noted, it's on the last slide of the presentation. So thank you all again for joining us today. The recording will be sent out in the next couple of days, and I hope you have an excellent afternoon and rest of the day. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Everybody.